Some discoveries unfold like a quiet whisper across the cosmos. Others, like the arrival of 3E Atlas, crash into the halls of science like a deafening alarm. For centuries, we believed our solar system was a relatively quiet corner of the galaxy, a peaceful haven drifting in a sea of predictable orbits and lifeless rocks. But the arrival of Oumuamua in 2017 shattered that illusion. Now, years later, the James Webb Space Telescope has identified something even more chilling. An object far larger, far faster, and far more calculated. It's called 3 Atlas. And according to leaked internal analysis from Webb's early scans, it's not only on a path that defies randomness, it exhibits behaviors that no natural body should. It mimics comets, yet moves like a probe. It reflects light like ice, but emits radiation patterns too structured to be accidental. In short, 3 Atlas is beginning to look like a surveillance tool, an artificial visitor cloaked in the skin of a comet. And what's worse, it's headed straight for the heart of our solar system with a level of precision that has left scientists speechless. But is this truly the second interstellar visitor we've encountered? Or is it something much darker? Let's unravel the evidence and face a question no one wanted to ask again. What if this isn't just a comet? What if this is the next phase of contact? When astronomers at the Vera-C-Rubin Observatory first detected the faint, fast-moving blur of 3E Atlas against the backdrop of the stars, they assumed it was another long-period comet, an icy drifter, harmless, spiraling in from the distant Oort cloud. But within hours, that assumption fell apart. The object's trajectory was unlike anything they'd catalogued before. Instead of obeying the chaotic curves expected from gravity-bound rocks, this body followed a narrow, deliberate path that cut straight through the inner solar system, and its velocity, over 130,000 miles per hour, well above escape velocity, indicating that it had come from beyond the sun's gravitational influence. This immediately placed it into an elite category, only the third known interstellar object ever detected. But the real alarm bells rang when its orbit simulations revealed something chilling. 3 Atlas would pass by several major planets at distances that allowed for potential data capture: Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and then swing past the Sun, using its energy to slingshot deeper into the system. Each turn, each alignment seemed designed, not incidental, not chaotic, like a ship on tour. Scientists ran the math again and again. And the odds of this being a natural trajectory, less than 0.01%. But even more disturbing, its closest approach to Earth would happen while our planet is shielded by the Sun, rendering it effectively invisible from all Earth-based observatories, as if it planned to avoid being seen. After Oumuamua's unexplained acceleration and bizarre properties, NASA was determined to be ready for the next interstellar visitor. That's why, as soon as 3 Atlas entered the solar system, the James Webb Space Telescope was quietly tasked with direct observation. It targeted the object using infrared spectrometry, hoping to identify its composition. What Webb found stunned the scientific team. The spectral signature of 3E Atlas initially resembled that of carbon-rich comets: dark, reflective, icy surfaces. But beneath those readings were anomalies that could not be ignored. First, there were rhythmic pulses of radiation, faint, repeating, structured. Second, it emitted thermal patterns inconsistent with rotation or solar heating, almost as if heat was being generated and distributed in a deliberate way. And third, there were unexplained micro-reflections that suggested smooth geometric surfaces beneath the dusty shell. It wasn't proof of engineering, but it certainly wasn't proof of randomness either. James Webb's data was sent to a select team of analysts under NASA's Office of Planetary Defense. And for the first time since Oumuamua, internal memos began to use words like intentional, artificial, and most terrifyingly, surveillance. Whatever 3E Atlas was, it wasn't behaving like a comet. And if its approach was by design, the only question left was who sent it, and why now? To understand why 3I Atlas has NASA on edge, we must return to 2017. Oumuamua, the first confirmed interstellar object, entered our system without warning. It tumbled, accelerated without outgassing, reflected light oddly, and vanished just as quickly. Renowned Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb proposed that Oumuamua might have been a fragment of alien technology. A light sail perhaps, or a probe designed to mimic natural objects. His theory was ridiculed by many. But now with 3I Atlas, some of those critics have gone silent. Because this new visitor is not only 7 times larger than Oumuamua, it's also smarter in its disguise. Passed close to Earth, allowing brief observation. Atlas, on the other hand, hides behind the Sun, evades Earth-based detection, and only reveals glimpses through space telescopes. It rotates at a rate that reduces thermal detection. Its flight path avoids gravitational instability zones. It even slows slightly when approaching high radiation areas, something no known comet or asteroid has ever done. In every way, it's an evolutionary leap over Oumuamua. And now, some theorists believe Oumuamua was just the reconnaissance phase. A preliminary scout. 3 Atlas is the main event. Behind closed doors, there's a theory that no official agency will confirm, but several insiders have begun to whisper. They call it the Watcher hypothesis. It suggests that 3I Atlas is not a comet, nor even a probe in the traditional sense, but a kind of interstellar sentinel. A long-term observational device launched by an unknown intelligence, one that has been monitoring solar systems for millennia. Its apparent targeting of Earth, its solar shielding maneuvers, and its flawless trajectory through the planetary system are not the result of natural forces, but of advanced pre-programming. Think of it like a black box, or worse, a surveillance drone equipped to record, analyze, and transmit information back to an origin point, light years away. And perhaps it doesn't just watch. Perhaps it listens to our radio emissions, to our satellite traffic, to our response. What if Atlas is not just here to observe, but to measure how aware we are of it? Like a cosmic intelligence test, and Earth has just realized it's being watched, or worse, judged, just as scientists were beginning to piece together the strangeness of 3I Atlas. Something occurred that froze ongoing analysis and elevated the police situation to a near-crisis level within key astrophysics institutions. The Deep Space Network, those massive antennas scattered across the globe that communicate with distant probes, detected a brief, barely perceptible signal originating from the direction of Atlas. It was narrowband, and pulsed at a frequency that bore eerie similarity to early attempts at Earth-based radar. What stunned analysts was the regularity of the pulses. It wasn't a continuous emission, nor was it random. It had spacing, precision, structure. Within hours, the message was escalated to multiple space agencies under classified protocols. Several observatories were quietly directed to reorient their instruments toward Atlas without making public announcements. One internal NASA memo stated, "The object may be actively scanning the planetary system. Signal is not of terrestrial origin. Compare with Oumuamua incident protocol." Although officials dismissed the signal as natural interference when questioned, leaked documents suggest that the signal repeated 3 times and then abruptly ceased, like a transmission test, a ping, or a handshake. While most telescopes rely on visible light, James Webb's real superpower lies in its ability to see in infrared, thermal radiation invisible to the human eye. This capability became critical as 3I Atlas began moving through a colder region of space just outside Mars orbit. Infrared scans revealed something that shouldn't exist: consistent angular shadows. Unlike typical comets, which emit irregular heat signatures due to their spinning, jagged nature, Atlas displayed persistent linear structures. It was as if the object had panels or fins, flat geometric surfaces that absorbed and remitted heat in a way no natural formation ever could. Even more bizarre was the discovery of what looked like a thermal corridor, a line of slightly warmer particles trailing behind the object, evenly spaced, as if some propulsion or energy system was leaving a heat trail. These discoveries were never announced publicly. Instead, agencies began issuing vague warnings about unexpected comet activity and anomalous interstellar characteristics. But the truth had already begun leaking through independent astronomers. Atlas, to those who could read the data, looked built, with weeks of consistent trajectory tracking, researchers became confident that 3 Atlas would pass through a very specific corridor between Earth and the Sun, likely allowing it to remain mostly undetected by terrestrial telescopes. But then, without warning, it shifted. Not just a gravitational nudge or random drift, an actual course correction. The object began adjusting its path ever so slightly, but unmistakably, toward a new vector. And that vector was Earth. While not a collision course, the new trajectory would now bring it significantly closer to our planet than any interstellar object in recorded history. The margin of proximity is narrow enough to allow Earth-based radar detection and possibly even atmospheric influence. This redirection, scientists say, required a delta V, change in velocity that cannot be explained by outgassing or gravity alone. Something or someone nudged Atlas. And if it's maneuvering,